Mexico 2, Ecuador nothing. A statement result on home soil that sends El Tri into the last 16 with a perfect record. Welcome to FairPlay, Football AI Review. This was a round of 32 clash at the 2026 FIFA World Cup that carried enormous weight for both sides. Mexico, playing in front of 80,824 fans at the Estadio Azteca, needed a victory to confirm their passage through the knockout rounds. Ecuador, meanwhile, were fighting for their tournament lives, knowing anything less than a win would likely end their World Cup journey on this warm Mexican night. The build-up to kickoff was anything but routine. A severe thunderstorm swept across Mexico City, delaying the start of the match by a full hour. When the teams finally emerged, the atmosphere was electric despite the damp conditions, and both sets of players knew that everything they had worked for in their group campaigns now came down to 90 minutes on this iconic pitch. Javier Aguirre's Mexico lined up in a bold and expansive 4-3-3 formation. The structure was designed to press high and use the width of the Azteca, with Roberto Alvarado and Julián Quiñones stretching play from the flanks and Raúl Jiménez serving as the focal point through the middle. Aguirre's plan was clear from the first whistle: attack relentlessly, make Ecuador defend deep, and exploit any hesitation in their backline. Sebastián Beccacheche set Ecuador up in a 4-4-2, a more conservative and defensively structured shape designed to stay compact and absorb Mexican pressure. The idea was to give Moisés Caicedo and Pedro Vite the disciplined platform to win the ball back in midfield and then release Enner Valencia and Gonzalo Plata on the counter. On paper, it was a logical response to Mexico's attacking intent. In practice, it would be overwhelmed. The tactical mismatch became apparent almost immediately. Mexico's wide attackers in the 4-3-3 created huge problems for Ecuador's flat 4-4-2. Because as Alvarado and Quiñones pushed high and wide, they consistently found space behind Ecuador's midfield line but ahead of their defense. That corridor between the lines was the battlefield, and Mexico won it decisively, with Eric Lira and Luis Romo dictating tempo and constantly finding runners in behind. Mexico controlled the opening exchanges with real authority, keeping Ecuador pinned into their own half for long stretches. The home side's pressing was ferocious, suffocating Ecuador's attempts to build from the back, and it was clear that the 4-4-2 was struggling to transition quickly enough to pose any genuine threat. Ecuador's danger man Enner Valencia was isolated and starved of service in those early minutes, while Quiñones and Alvarado buzzed dangerously on the flanks. The breakthrough arrived in the 22nd minute, and it was a goal of real quality. Roberto Alvarado picked up possession on the right and immediately released Julián Quiñones down the left channel. Quiñones took one touch to set his body, drove purposefully into the penalty area, and lashed an unstoppable right-foot effort past Hernán Galíndez before the goalkeeper could get set. It was the kind of finish that had marked Quiñones out as one of the tournament's most dangerous forwards. Just 9 minutes later, Mexico struck again, and this time Ecuador's defending was simply catastrophic. Joel Ordóñez gave the ball away in a central area under minimal pressure, and Jiménez immediately combined with Quiñones in a sharp give-and-go that cut the Ecuador defense apart. The Fulham striker drove forward and rifled a composed right-foot shot into the corner of the net, leaving Galíndez rooted. 2-0, and the match was effectively over before the half-hour mark. Quiñones had a chance to complete a first-half hat-trick shortly before the interval, and came agonizingly close, striking the woodwork with a shot that Galíndez had no chance of stopping. That moment summed up Ecuador's misery. They were getting punished from every angle, and even fortune was deserting them. The contest felt settled long before the half-time whistle. Alan Franco added to Ecuador's woes when he was booked in stoppage time at the end of the first half for a foul described as serious foul play. That yellow card would trigger a halftime substitution that saw Beccacheche forced into an early reshuffle, removing 2 starters and attempting to reshape his side's defensive organization before the damage got any worse. At the break, Mexico were dominant in every measurable sense. The 2 goals were well-deserved, the tactical plan had worked to perfection, and the only question was whether Ecuador could summon anything in the second half to make it a contest. The mood inside the Azteca was joyful and expectant. El Tri's fans sensed a historic night was unfolding. WC2026 made a double change at halftime, introducing Yaimar Medina for Alan Franco and Angelo Preciado for Joel Ordóñez, effectively reorganizing the defensive structure and accepting that the game plan from the first half had failed entirely. Ecuador came out with marginally more purpose in the second half, putting together a couple of promising sequences, but they lacked the cutting edge to genuinely threaten Raúl Rangel, who had been largely untroubled throughout. Aguirre made his first change in the 58th minute, withdrawing Gilberto Mora and bringing on Brian Gutierrez to inject fresh energy into the midfield. It was a measured decision. Mora had worked hard but was beginning to tire, and Gutierrez added a new dimension with his direct running and technical ability in tight spaces, helping Mexico maintain their stranglehold on the midfield battle. WC2026 introduced Kevin Rodriguez for the veteran Enner Valencia in the 59th minute, a change that signaled the end of Valencia's tournament. The Ecuador captain had contributed almost nothing to the game, completing just 4 passes across 59 minutes. A heartbreaking final World Cup appearance, if this is indeed the curtain on his remarkable international career. Rodriguez offered more directness, but arrived into a game that was already firmly decided. Mexico continued to rotate with purpose. Luis Romo came off in the 73rd minute, replaced by the combative Obed Vargas, and a minute later, Santiago Giménez replaced the impressive Raúl Jiménez, a straightforward like-for-like switch to protect Jiménez ahead of the next round. Giménez came on hungry and alert, immediately pressing Ecuador's backline and causing discomfort. Aguirre completed his changes in the 80th minute, bringing on Orbelín Pineda for the 2-goal hero Quiñones and Israel Reyes for Roberto Alvarado. Both attackers received tremendous ovations from the Azteca crowd, a recognition of the enormous contributions they had made to a controlled and impressive victory. Ecuador made their own late changes, Jordi Caicedo replacing John Yeboah and Kendry Páez coming on for Nilson Angelo, but these were consolation shuffles rather than tactical interventions. The decisive moment of the entire match had come in those first 31 minutes. When Jiménez converted to make it 2-0 before Ecuador had even settled, the match was over as a genuine contest. Everything that followed was damage limitation, and the 2-goal cushion proved entirely comfortable for a Mexico side that never looked like conceding. The red card in stoppage time provided one of the most remarkable footnotes to the match. Piero Hincapié, frustrated and chippy in the final minutes, was caught covering his mouth while saying something to Santiago Giménez. Giménez immediately alerted the referee, Slavko Vincic of Slovenia, who went to the VAR monitor and returned to show Hincapié a straight red card. This is a new rule making its debut at the 2026 World Cup. The IFAB approved an amendment to the laws of the game specifically to address discriminatory and inappropriate behavior, and Hincapié became only the second player at this tournament to be dismissed under it, following Paraguay's Miguel Almirón in the group stage. The ball statistics tell a genuinely fascinating story about this match. Ecuador enjoyed 57% possession and completed 341 accurate passes to Mexico's 248. They had more corners, more attacks on paper, and a higher pass accuracy of 83%. And yet, Mexico were 2 goals up inside 31 minutes. Possession was Ecuador's comfort blanket. It was safe, largely unthreatening, and entirely failed to translate into genuine danger. In terms of attacking threat, the numbers are damning for Ecuador. Mexico generated an expected goals figure of 1.22 to Ecuador's 0.48. Mexico launched 15 total shots to Ecuador's 7, and 10 of Mexico's attempts came from inside the box compared to just 5 from Ecuador. By any attacking metric, Mexico were the vastly superior side. Defensively, Mexico were rarely tested. Raúl Rangel was called into action just once all night in terms of saves, the only genuine effort Ecuador managed on target. Rangel made 6 saves across the game, though the vast majority were routine and comfortable. Cesar Montes and Johan Vázquez were imperious at center-back, giving Valencia absolutely nothing to work with in the first half and then managing the second period without any real anxiety. The standout performer for Mexico was, without question, Julián Quiñones. He scored 1 goal, assisted another, took 11 shots, put 5 on target, hit the woodwork, and provided the energy that made Mexico's attack function throughout the match. His movement across the front line was relentless, his desire to get on the ball infectious, and his quality in the final third was a constant menace for Ecuador's defenders. Now, on 3 goals for the tournament, he sits alongside the elite attackers in the World Cup scoring charts. For Ecuador, John Yeboah was the one player who offered any kind of spark in an otherwise dismal performance. The winger put in 2 shots, hit the woodwork himself in what was Ecuador's best moment, and worked hard to create something against the grain of the game. With 79 minutes on the pitch, he gave everything for his team, but in a match so completely dominated by Mexico, individual effort was never going to be enough. The player who disappointed most was Enner Valencia. As Ecuador's captain and record goalscorer, the expectation was that his experience and leadership would be crucial. Instead, he completed just 4 passes in 59 minutes, registered no shots, no key passes, and offered almost no physical presence against Mexico's well-organized defense. Whether fatigue, tactical isolation, or the occasion affected him, this was not the performance his legacy deserved. Javier Aguirre's tactical decisions were close to perfect. His 4-3-3 exploited the space behind Ecuador's midfield line repeatedly. His substitutions maintained intensity without disrupting shape, and his decision to withdraw key players early, protecting Jimenez and Quiñones, showed the confidence of a manager who knew the job was done. Beccachiche, by contrast, was undone by his own caution. A flat 4-4-2 gave Mexico too much corridor between the lines, and the halftime double change was an admission that the first half game plan had been entirely wrong. The head-to-head history between these nations is still a relatively limited record at World Cup level, but this result emphatically confirms Mexico's current superiority over their South American rivals. The combination of home advantage, a ferocious Azteca atmosphere, and a tactically superior setup meant Ecuador never had the tools to compete. Mexico now hold the psychological ascendancy in this fixture definitively. Mexico's form coming into this match was extraordinary, 4 wins from 4 including a 3-0 hammering of Czech Republic and a clean sheet against South Africa. That momentum was reflected in the manner of this victory, a team operating with genuine tournament belief, their defensive record of 6 goals scored and none conceded across the group stage now extending into the knockout rounds. Ecuador's recent form, meanwhile, told the story of a team in transition. Before this tournament, they had drawn with Brazil, Peru, Chile, and Paraguay in South American qualifying, and while they beat Argentina 1-0 in a famous result and defeated Germany 2-1 at this World Cup, the inconsistency that plagued their qualifying campaign was always lurking. A side that draws 5 and loses 2 of their last 10 competitive matches before this knockout stage was simply not equipped to handle Mexico at full throttle. Mexico's perfect record, 3 wins from 3 in the group stage, 9 points, 6 goals scored, 0 conceded, now extends into the knockout rounds, and they move forward to face the winner of match 80 on the 6th of July. With their squad depth, their momentum, and the continued brilliance of Quiñones, they are a genuine quarterfinal contender and perhaps even darker horses for the latter stages. Ecuador, however, are eliminated, and for Hincapié and Caicedo in particular, this night will linger, not just for the result, but for the manner of the final minutes. Mexico 2, Ecuador nothing. It was comprehensive, clinical, and controlled, a display that combined tactical intelligence with individual brilliance in a performance that every team left in this tournament will have noted carefully. The Azteca roared, Quiñones dazzled, and Aguirre's Mexico looked like a team with real distance still to run in this World Cup. Stay with FairPlay as the round of 32 continues. More knockout football, more defining moments, and more of the analysis that gets beneath the surface of the beautiful game. That's the FairPlay verdict on this one. If you want more analysis like this, follow us. Find us on YouTube, Instagram, and TikTok at FairPlay AI, and follow Anthony personally on X at Anthony FairPlay. See you next match.